Welcome to the sixth and final day of the Spark Writing Festival. So today we have a panel of different Alabama and regional organizations. So we have Alina Stefanescu with the Magic City Poetry Festival. We have Jeannie Thompson with the Alabama Writers Forum, TJ Biddleman with the Alabama Writers Cooperative, and Sharon Pegram with the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, the Southern Breeze regional chapters. So they cover Alabama and the Georgia area. So let's just go ahead and get started with Magic City Poetry Festival. So Alina, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the organization?
Hi, my name is Alina Stefanescu, and sometimes that's Elena in Alabama, sometimes it's Alina in Romania. It depends on where I am, and I'm fine with all of the ways in which people know and say my name. So Magic City Poetry Festival is really the brainchild or the dream child of Ashley M. Jones, who is our current state poet laureate and just a magic mover in the entire state and the city. It was sort of her dream to have a poetry festival, something like what she had seen in Miami, that was based on, the city, and that celebrated poetry that existed here in the city, and that's Birmingham, and focused on drawing attention to the poetry that doesn't always get published in journals. So that includes spoken word, that includes slam, that includes the poetry of people who are not in MFA programs and who are not doing this as a sole career, right? So we got really lucky because we pitched PEN America, and they offered some of the first funding. So it began in that way. And because of pandemic, a lot of it ended up virtual, but it's been a learning experience with Ashley at the helm. And it's now a 501c3. It also includes a scholarship or fellowship that is sort of in honor of Ashley's father. And it awards a young poet and sort of gives them money and opportunity to move forward. One of the greatest things about it for me has been learning more about the community. There's very much a community focused aspect to it. And because we don't have a ton of money, we're always looking for help. We're always looking for assistance, always looking for ways to connect the lines, but also discovering new writers. You discover people whose voices are just incredible. And I think that's one of the most exciting parts of it. It's also exciting that my kids attended many years, and went and got to hear people do live poetry. And I think that's just like, we have kids, we take them to art museums or we take them to other kinds of engaged sort of personal community-based art. There's something wonderful about it, including younger people that can see poetry as something that's lived experience, that's in the body, that is local, that is talking about the space that we're in, that is changing the space we're in by being open and sharing. And it's just a space of continuing education for me as someone who gets to sometimes work on some of the programs, but it's also a space where we get to encounter more radical ideas and radical thoughts that aren't often discussed. So we got to do a PEN panel that talked to some of the queer and gay LGBTQ and trans persons in Alabama who are writers, and what their experience was like, and why there isn't, that always sort of interfaces with what's going on in the present, right? Because we're not living, the abstraction is not separate from the body. And when people say, is poetry political or is writing political, it's always hard for me to imagine how it couldn't be if we're talking about a time or a place ever. If we're talking about money, it's always political, right? So you don't have to use the word political. Even a flower, if is political, given that we live in an environment where there's so many pesticides and so many climate change is changing in which flowers exist. So everything around us involves all of us and involves choices that involve all of us. And the community side of poetry is super exciting to me. And I don't know if that's answered questions or if that's what I was supposed to say, but that's it. Thank you, Haley.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, Sharon, why don't you give us a rundown?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm the regional advisor for Southern Breeze, one of two with my co-Lisa Stoffer. And the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators is the big mothership organization. We're national and international. And then Southern Breeze covers Georgia, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. And we run programming at both levels. But if you join one, you automatically join both. So it's kind of a deal. It's like, so I'm going to show you the websites for both of those. And apparently, first I'm going to show you the email that I got. Yes, where are my other tabs? Okay, let's make you. The tab switch is behind the controls on the top of the screen. So this is the main site for SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. We offer programming to help people with their craft, also to help get connected with the business of children's publishing, because it's a whole different kind of slice of the industry from adult. And we build community. And that's especially what we do on the regional level. This is where you find your writer friends who keep you going through this long, difficult industry. Children's publishing covers everything from board books up through young adult crossover adult novels and fiction and nonfiction, the illustrated picture books and graphic novels, and the novels for middle grade and on. And also the educational publishing and traditional publishing markets. And these days, we also are offering things for self-publishers and people who want to self-publish, as well as people seeking the traditional publishing path. And illustrators and translators. So I don't know if we have a lot of them here today, but it's a broad umbrella. So right now, this weekend is our big summer conference, which ordinarily would happen in California and now is happening on Zoom. So it's 3 days, 2 full days of programming with people from agents, editors. It's the big conference. Locally, so as we get small again so we can get to the next tab. So the Southern Breeze, really, it's up here. There's a banner that actually says Southern Breeze, but you can probably see it. I can't see it. This is our local regional webpage, which is you can get to from that scbwi.org page. And locally, we're doing everything online at the moment for the past 2 years, but we have started edging back into a couple of local events in person, mostly outdoor. And in the before times, and again, starting up this March, we do a conference a year, which is usually a full side, not as big as the California one, obviously, but usually a couple of editors, a couple of agents, an author, an illustrator, an art director for illustrators for a weekend of get together. Seriously, okay. The last little level here is our most recent newsletter to see what we do at the local, everyday, what's available kind of level. We have a monthly meeting online every month. This started during the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure we're going to keep this one going because spanning 2 states, everything in person is far away from at least someone. So the online monthly meetings are free to members and everyone can attend. They're the second Tuesdays of every month. And this month we have Victoria Jameson coming to talk about graphic novels. And I'm fangirling over that because she is very well accomplished and just everything she turns out is just amazing. And that was like, we were like, she probably won't say yes, will she, if we ask her? And we're like, well, let's ask her and see. And she did. So that's exciting. The Crystal Kite is an award given out, voted on by the membership to published authors in the region each year. Our August calendar. So obviously the summer conference is on, our monthly meeting is on the 9th. Picture book breakdown is a new thing that we started this past year, twice a month, of an hour-long analysis of a successful published picture book, where it's read it, look at it, and have a discussion about what works. Online critiques, we do those 2 to 4 times a month. There's only 2 this month because it's August and everybody's on vacation. But usually 2 to 4, either Saturday mornings and Monday nights. And those are completely informal, bring whatever level, whether it's picture book up through YA, we break out into breakout rooms and critique. And that's been another thing that has been really nice to have online, because we've had some people that are far away from the city centers who can come to that, or the people who are working during the day and can't come to some of the get-togethers. PAL chat is SCBWI, abbreviates published and listed members, with people who are published in the children's market. So we do an informal online chat for them once a month to talk industry stuff, particular to like marketing and things. And then our E&I team meets monthly, that's equity and inclusion, to explore ways to make our programming more inclusive and make our region look more like the region we live in. So next month, our Gregory Christie's coming. He's local, we claim him. He lives in Atlanta. He's an illustrator. And our sister region, one of our neighbors, Mid-South, has an in-person retreat day-long thing with Linda Newberry Winter, Linda Sue Park, coming up in September. If anybody wants to screenshot that, they still have openings for that. And it's going to be, I can guarantee it's going to be amazing. I've heard Linda Sue Park speak before, and she's an amazing teacher. And local to Alabama, we have an in-person at the South Huntsville Branch Library on September 21st. That is going to be kind of a meetup, a little bit of informal critique, getting back to seeing each other face to face after only seeing us on the picture, on the Zooms. So the other, I always have to plug the book with SCBWI, because it's kind of all things Kidlit, including editors and agents, and you can look things up like agented by or edited by, and it'll have some list of some famous books and who worked on them, which can help you when you're stalking editors and agents in this field to find out who's a good fit for your query. There's a lot of other good information in the book about children's publishing, and they just came out with they just put together one for self-publishing, which is also up on the website. So that is kind of my basic who we are, what we do.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, TJ.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for coming, and thanks for having me. My name is TJ Beidelman, and I'm my day job, I'm the chair of the creative writing department at the Alabama School of Fine Arts in Birmingham. But I also serve as the president of the board of the Alabama Writers Cooperative, which was until relatively recently formerly known as the Alabama Writers Conclave. And I'll get into that change in a second, but our organization is one of, if not the oldest writers organization in the state of Alabama. Next year will be our 100th anniversary. So wow. That's pretty cool. And since 1931, we have been the organization that the state legislature has tapped to select the state's poet laureate. So we have selected all 13 state poets laureate of the state of Alabama, and we are super, super excited and stoked about our current state poet laureate, who Alina mentioned, Ashley M. Jones, who is my colleague here at ASFA, and also, you know, she's a dynamo, so she's involved in just about every literary organization in the state, but she's also involved in our organization. So we're really excited about her poet laureateship, and she's just recently gotten a huge coup, and maybe Jeannie can talk about that a little bit, because she sort of partnered a little bit with Alabama Writers Forum to do that with her fellowship that she recently won. But so we do that, but we also have an annual writing contest and an annual conference. And this year we are going back to in-person for the first time in 3 years, for obvious reasons, maybe. Last year we did a virtual conference that was super successful. We were really excited about that. And I think in our field of writing, I think we've all sort of discovered just how suited we are for virtual stuff, you know, and it makes a lot of things more accessible. It makes a lot of things more workable, just generally speaking. So there's going to be some virtual component, like with Spark, with this conference, but we're going to be at the O'Neill Library in Mountain Brook, Alabama, later this month, actually, August 26th through 28th. And I'm going to slap the conference page into the chat so everybody can go check it out. Ashley will be our keynote, and she's it's going to be an opportunity for us to celebrate her selection, which took place at last year's conference. And she was sworn in by Governor Ivey in December of last year. So this is the first sort of in-person opportunity that we have to celebrate her. And we're really, really excited to do that. And she's going to be keynoting at our banquet on Saturday evening. And she's going to be talking about really interesting concept of reparations, which of course has political and cultural ramifications, but she's also going to be talking about how it has personal and individual ramifications, the idea of reparations for the individual as well. And her new book is Reparations Now. So she's going to be reading from that, but also giving a talk. So it's going to be a really great opportunity. We have a lot of other cool stuff happening at the conference as well this year. Everything from writing for TV to writing about horror, you know, horror fiction. We're going to have agent pitch sessions that are free for people who register. That's first come, first serve, limited basis, but you know, if you register, you'll get that opportunity. We have manuscript consultations, again, free, first come, first serve. So you get a chance to have feedback from a professional in the industry, a writer and or editor of some repute. So that's our conference, and we're really excited about that. Another thing that we do, and I think it's interesting, going back to the idea of virtuality, probably the way that we engage our membership the most is through our website. And Alina, who also is active in our organization, is to thank for that. She built out our web presence in so many different ways, and she can tell you probably better than I can the ways in which we're able to serve our membership virtually that are difficult in any other way. So our website has all sorts of things where we are featuring our members and their work. We're offering interviews with published writers, various opportunities, etc. So you can, in the link, you know, you can see our URL is Alabama Writers Cooperative.org, and our mission is to engage and nurture a diverse community of Alabama writers. And that goes along with what I was talking about before. About 5 years ago, we had a name change, but it was more than just a name change. It was sort of a rebrand and also a strategic plan that took us from what was probably accurately described as a conclave. I mean, at one point in our organization's history, it was invitation only. And we are 180 degrees from that. We want big umbrella. We want as many different kinds of Alabama writers and Alabama writing too. I mean, when we say diverse community of Alabama writers, we mean every kind of diversity. You know, we mean demographic diversity, but we mean diversity of genre. We mean diversity of background, you know, everything from, you know, tenured professors in literary academia to people who've never taken a workshop before, and all points in between. We really look at ourselves as an opportunity to connect writers. We tend to be, this is probably an unfair statement, but we tend to be a little bit to ourselves, and we like it that way. But we want to be that opportunity for people to connect when they need to connect, because we do need that as well. I'm looking up at my board to make sure. Oh, our membership is fairly affordable. It's $25 a year. And we do have institutional memberships too. So for bookstores and other literary organizations, it's $55, but have some opportunities with that too. So yeah, that's about my spiel, and I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, TJ. All right, and Jeannie.
Okay, thanks everybody. It's great to be here. Let me fix one thing here so I can see everybody. Okay, so I was listening to all this. I was wishing that we had a map of Alabama so that we could put little pins and dots and sparks and whatever's all over this map to show where all these things are originating and how they spoke out and connect. I've been madly making notes while I've listened to everybody else, because one of the things that the Alabama Writers Forum really tries to do is to keep up with all this, what's going on in the state. Well, it's impossible to keep up with all of it, but let me just back up and say what we are. The Alabama Writers Forum, which is kind of a ponderous name, is a statewide literary arts service organization. And so what that means is that we do a lot of the things that everybody's already been talking about, but we try to look statewide how we can support writers, writing, teachers of writing, readers to increase the awareness of Alabama's literary community. And a piece that we've added to it recently, or in our talking about it, is the idea of a literary citizen. And we've already touched on this with Magic City Poetry, the children's writers. We've already talked about this in different ways, but the idea of encouraging people to be a part of the literary community and to be citizens of that community. And when you're a citizen of a community, you have to pay attention to what's around you, nurture what's around you, help what's needed, and contribute. It's not just about how can I get my thing published. It's a lot bigger than that. And I know that sounds kind of, that may sound kind of silly, but in my 30 years of doing this, I have seen a lot of people looking for help at the beginning of a writing career. I have seen people stepping out in a very major way, say like Ashley or Rick Bragg or other people. And we want the world to know about them. But what I'd like everybody on this call to understand is that the Alabama Writers Forum is funded through two different streams of funding that come from the state of Alabama. So there's a lot of what we do is your tax dollars at work. And it's very important for you as citizens to know where your tax dollars are being spent. If you keep up with the political landscape, you know that there are many things that we're dealing with in the state of Alabama that involve tax dollars. But we are in the state, we fund the arts very, very well. I don't know how many of you care to follow politics, but it's important if you're an artist, if you're a citizen of a community, to know where the funds are going. And Alabama has a great reputation nationally as a strong funder of the arts. And when I travel out of state and I say I'm from Alabama, and I get that look, that you get sometimes, I say Alabama funds per capita above the 50th percentile of all state arts councils. We fund more per capita than California. Of course, they have more people, but that's still a nice statistic. So I just want you all to know that you have a lot of reason to be proud of being an artist or a writer, a teacher, a librarian, whatever your area is, from Alabama, because the state, because of wonderful leadership for many years by Al Head, has a strong arts support. And the Writers Forum is one of the partnerships that the council started. So we have an arts council, but we have these partnerships that are funded to help different areas: folk arts, dance, visual arts, literature. I always hate doing this because I leave somebody out. But anyway, that's why we're here. And I'm so overwhelmed by all the things that I've heard just in these few minutes. I didn't realize the depth of. And so as the forum begins to get ready to launch our new website, I've already written a bunch of things down here that we need to make sure that we are showing, that are visible to people who might stumble upon the Writers Forum looking to know things. Okay, let me stop there and say we have programs, we have services, a lot of things. You can be a member. We have right now for Spark, we have a discounted membership. If you go to writersforum.org, it's real simple, writersforum.org. At the top, there's a support button. Go in there, and if you're not a member or you want to renew, the $35 individual membership is discounted by $10. So, but I'd like to know, when we get our discussion, I'd like to know what it is that you as a writer, those of you who are here as writers, what is it that you need? What do you need to be supported? I know you need money, and I know you need to be published. Okay, don't have to say that. What else do you need? What else would you like to see the literary leaders in the state do for you as a writer? And I'll stop there, Haley, and let people ask questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you guys can drop them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourselves. Whatever, bring us your questions. What is it that you need? What do you want out of your Alabama leaders, writing leaders?
Don't be shy.
Well, I'm new to it all, so I came in. I missed a lot of what Sharon was saying. I guess and hopefully I didn't miss too much more of that, but I hate I missed that part. But yeah, this is a lot of good stuff. You know, to ask the question, it seems like I don't know where to start. You say don't say anything about the money in the publishing part.
That was teasing. I'm teasing.
Yeah. However, I guess for me, just a place to be nourished, kind of like an incubator, mentorship type thing. I don't know what type of focus there is, or if there's anything about those writers who have some disability that impede them getting through their project. I'm one of those people that I started in one space and then something happened, and now so I'm questioning everything. I do what except for the story that I know that I'm trying to put out there. So maybe no coddling, but just some, I don't know, I'm afraid to say what because you guys got so much. Like, oh, we have that. We have that here. We have that there. So, yeah.
Haley, you want me to start off?
Go for it.
Well, one thing I would say, Jacqueline, is that you might visit the websites of these groups, and whatever your genre, what is your genre that you write? What is your area that you're writing? Fiction, poetry, children's, plays? Fiction. Okay. Well, for instance, on just to kind of get an idea of what other people in Alabama are publishing, and not just in Alabama, but it's a place to start. The Writers Forum regularly publishes book reviews by authors who are either from Alabama or they're published by an Alabama press. And just because of limitations of staff and money, we can't, publish hundreds of reviews a month, but we try to publish a selection. So that would be one thing that you could do to kind of to read the reviews of other people's books, to get an idea of how they're being presented to the world, and think about, well, what am I writing, and what might a reviewers think about me? Now, coming back to your disabilities question, that's an area that the forum is trying to know more about. So if you had anything that you'd like to communicate with me directly about that, I would love to know what your issues are, because that's a huge area, obviously. But there's some things that are, for instance, taking for hearing impaired or sight impaired people, we can change, we can use different methods. But what are there some other things that we might not be as aware of?
Mhm.
That would help us to know that. I'll just tell y'all my email if you want it. It's Jeannie Thompson at writersforum.org. JeannieThompson at writersforum.org, or you can go to the website and find me there. But that's a really good example of something that we need to know what people need that we might not be working on yet, or we might not be spending as much time on yet.
Yes,
Somebody.
so we do have in the chat. So Stephen says independent writers need health and other insurance. And having been a freelance writer, like nobody gives you any sort of resources for like how to sustain that while not working a traditional job. So do we have any resources for people who are trying to write while not being traditionally employed?
TJ, do you have an answer on that?
Well, Alina's raising a hand, and she put in
Okay,
the
I
chat
can't
about
see the
Writers
screen very
Guild.
well.
I do have something to add to this generally, but go ahead, Alina. That's a more specific answer, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say the Writers Guild is wonderful. I think I joined the first time like 4 years ago, and it not only gives you access to like how to get health insurance, it also tells you if you're doing freelance, which is what I do, how to manage your taxes. They have free webinars online on how to get a lawyer. They have free lawyers that will look over contracts for you, that are writing contracts. They give you a handbook that basically tells you all the stuff that's happening with copyright in the year. They have, you can contact them anytime. You can also learn how to make a retirement account as a writer, which is something else no one else talks about because nobody assumes a writer ever retires, right? But you might want to retire from freelance. You might want to actually live.
Have a life.
And
what's the cost?
The Writers Guild, I'm sorry, the Authors Guild. Thank you.
Authors Guild.
The Authors Guild. Thank you. The Authors Guild is the one that I found out from an older person who was like, when I was complaining all about all this, she was like, oh, well, I retired using my writing and my writing account that the Authors Guild helped me set up. And I was like, who? What?
Wow.
So those are, yeah. So those are, and you can make use of them. I think part of it too is having, once you become a member, having the courage to just say, okay, I'm actually going to use these services they offer. I'm going to email this the lawyer and ask him.
I'm glad you said that, because that's not something that, I hate to say, I don't really know very much about that. So I'm going to go check this out and make sure that we have it available for people. Do you have roughly an idea what the dues or the cost is to join it? Yeah. Uh-oh, you're muted, Alina.
Steven says $100 a month.
I was putting the link up there so you could see. I think when I joined, it was $100 a year. I don't know what it is. I've been a member for so long, I have it on automatic renew.
Okay.
Because
it's 100 a month?
No, it was like, I think you have to look on there and see. I just put the link.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Yes, that's definitely, that's good. Now, but to bring it back to Alabama, there's not really anything like that among these organizations, right? I mean, we have to point you. That's one of the main things the forum really tries to do, is to point people toward the place where they can find it. Mm-hmm. So this is a national thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just dovetailing on that concept of us being sort of a network or network of networks. Our organization is an all volunteer organization. And, you know, Magic City Poetry Festival is on that line too, I assume, you know, to a certain extent. The Writers Forum does have a small staff, you know, so the resources, particularly human resources are limited. However, Jacqueline, you're doing the right thing. I mean, Spark is a good resource to get connected to the voices like Alina's that can say, hey, check out the Authors Guild, you know. That's the sort of way it percolates around. Our organization, and Alina put in the chat, you know, our website and the blog, those are places where you can not only get ideas, but you can identify people who might be resources that you might reach out to. You can go to our conference, you can go to Spark, you can go to UAB's reading series, you can go to various things in your area. And somebody put in the chat, the Hoover Library has a writers group, you know, it's this kind of a la carte, you know, putting yourself out there in these, you know, one small thing, you never know who you're going to meet that's going to give you that lead to health insurance or something that you didn't expect could happen from an event like this, you know, in the chat. I feel like that's how it happens. It's a grassroots type thing. In Alabama, I think we're getting better at connecting these various networks, I think, you know, where it is a network of networks. And go back to the virtual thing. I mean, that sort of has helped maybe a little bit too, but yeah, that's what I would say.
So I've got two of our next questions in the chat that I think kind of go hand in hand. So Stephanie had asked, I would like to know how to get involved with events that I can speak at and events that are larger than just a coffee shop book signing. I think TJ, you just sort of covered that one. And then we've got Allie, who as a newbie to understand how to do this more and more as a professional. I'm considering formal education and development, so an MFA, are there higher ed partnerships for grad programs that help fund or elevate those who want to pursue an MFA, give feedback on our MFA applications as we try to get in, panels of professors at Alabama higher institutions, so we get a sense of faculty, mentorship, engagement, and interest, meaning panel discussions with faculty at AL schools or who have writing programs.
Wow. Okay, I haven't thought about that. Those of us who are speaking here today are community-based organizations, small staffs, and we have some of these types of people that are described here on our board. But that job of telling people how to do MFA applications and that sort of thing, that's really the colleges who need to do that. We're really not. There's just not enough hours in the day to be able to help people a whole lot with that. We could, you know, I mean, somebody can say something else on that, but I just.
Yeah, so I'm Haley Cotton, by the way. I am with UAB. Spark is a UAB community outreach program, so it's hosted by the English department. If you're looking for people to get to know how to get into MFA programs and things of that nature, reaching out to a member on an English department's faculty. So especially within the department that you're trying to join. So UAB does not have an MFA program because University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa does. And then you've got Auburn, which has their graduate study as well. So you can talk with some of the people in our department because they have gone through the MFA process, and they can, if you ask them nicely, can help you develop your application, but also going to those specific schools themselves and just narrowing down the people. When you get that person-to-person interaction, that's where you really get the things to change. But we don't actually have any kind of system set up into place that says hey, looking to get into MFA school, we will as a professional panel review you. No,
sure.
Yeah, we don't have.
I have a clarifying question. I guess what I was thinking is, you know how there's one-on-one feedback when you have a writing project, does an application, would that be an inappropriate thing to ask, one of you who has a lot of experience or someone within the collective for that kind of feedback? And then I guess the other thing, I work for a 5-person nonprofit, so I totally understand. I guess I meant at some of these conferences, are there faculty from different programs where, just like you all have a panel today, maybe it's a panel from some different Alabama institutions where they just talk about that. So, but that still may be, I totally understand, work intensive.
I think you should go to the school that you're interested in, because they're all businesses competing for your business as a student. And so their orientation is not to be altruistic. Their orientation is to recruit people to their school.
Absolutely.
My alma mater is the University of Alabama. Okay, and I can tell you that they want, they're not going to go advise you how to get into Auburn. They're not going to advise you how to get into New Mexico. They're going to advise you and try to recruit you into them. And so if you wanted, I would, like, I guess TJ said, ask the department directly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've done some of it. I guess it's daunting going to every institution and then thinking of all your faculty, is there anyone that has my interest? But I mean, you're right. It's a competitive nature. They want to compete for the best applicants. So yeah.
I
And
just
it's
said
also-
to my son is actually applying to college this year, and I don't have an MFA, but I didn't allow him to go to college. And he's doing a gap year because he didn't look at the professors. He was looking at the schools and the ratings. He had no idea what the names of the professors he wanted to study under in music were going to be. And I said, you are not ready for any program. Okay, because you don't pay a ton of money to go study under someone without knowing who you want to learn from. So that's what I would say, more than anything. Sit down with some of these programs, look at the professors, look at their bios, go link to their writing, find the one that you love, the one that speaks to you, the one that inspires you. You can Google all of them now. That's one great thing about this environment now with the digital world, is that you can find out, you can see them speaking in videos, you can see how they teach, so you can find.
But they might not be there. They might not be there. Next year they may go somewhere else. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
They
I've
may
started
take
all
another
that
job.
process.
That's
I'm just looking for shortcuts.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's just the best. That's the best that I would recommend. And you beyond
And
that,
I would also add that, like, let's say you wanted to go to the University of Alabama MFA program, and you wanted to approach a faculty member there with your actual work, they're probably not going to give you feedback on it.
Right.
Excuse me. So the best way to get feedback on that is there are a lot of great workshops, virtual, that get into a good workshop and research the workshop leader and see who they like. Grackle and Grackle, for instance, is a great online program. I think they're keeping going with their online stuff. Black Lawrence Press, who's a press I'm associated with, has free virtual workshops. If you can get feedback from those folks, they also have a consultation program. If it's good, it's good. It's not like an MFA program says it's good, but it has to be good in this way. I mean, I guess they do, but make your work the best it can be. I mean, that's what you have to do.
Right.
And there are just some tried and true ways to do that. And then I think Alina's right. You do have to research the programs. And I'm one who would say, for instance, that you probably should avoid paying for an MFA.
Yes.
So then that sort of narrows it down. So anyway,
Gotcha.
but all that's to say too, that again, you're at Spark and you're getting this sort of ad hoc free advice, that's how it's going to happen, And also, I would also throw you out to AWP for that kind of panel that you're talking about, the Associated Writers and Writing Programs. And those sorts of organizations, sort of larger organizations, nationwide. If you went to AWP, I would, there probably is a panel on what you're talking about.
It's probably on their website. They've got tons of stuff available on. So you have to pay thousands of dollars for one panel.
Writers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
great.
you.
So our next question actually comes from Salem. She says, what are some leadership opportunities in your organizations for literary arts in the state, and the ways folks interested in advanced ways to move the state forward and promote community writers and become involved to make some of the necessary changes, mostly for advancing persons in the field, how can one interested in diversifying and bringing more inclusiveness and like getting involved. So she is on the road. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Short answer, we're always looking for that sort of energy. In our organization, again, we're all volunteer. So if you're interested, shoot me an email. I'll throw my email into the chat. And yeah, we're definitely open to that kind of exactly what you said.
And yeah, I'll say the same thing TJ said. One of the things that is interesting, the TJ is the vice president of the Writers Forum and president of the Writers Cooperative right now. And that means that this poor man is stretched so thin trying to give to both of these organizations. We need, Salam, we need really strong board members. And I'll say this to everyone, we need strong board members, people who are willing to handle certain areas, whatever your area of expertise is, and come in and not just be somebody who will sit in the meeting and vote yes and go home. And I'm not saying that that's what everybody does, but the stronger the board, the stronger the organization. So leadership is an that is an opportunity through the boards. I hope that answers the question there.
Yeah, we're all children's, obviously, but we are also an all-volunteer organization, except for the very small staff in California at headquarters. So we are always on the lookout for people wanting to come in and do new things, bring new ideas. It's likely that we will then say, hey, that's a great idea. Would you like to coordinate it? But
yeah.
But our Equity and Inclusion Committee is kind of an entry point for specific diversifying and inclusivity ideas. But we are across the board always looking for ways to make our events more accessible to people with various disabilities. We try to keep bringing and keeping the price point for our activities as low as possible. And new initiatives that we haven't thought of yet. We're always looking to hear new voices on our regional volunteer staff as well, because we have a lot of volunteers, thank goodness.
And one thing, Haley, I want to try to put it in, bring this in, is that one of the big areas that the forum has been developing now for like 25 years is arts and juvenile justice. And we teach creative writing to adjudicated youth through the Department of Youth Services, and we don't have enough time for me to do the long spiel on it, but it's called Writing Our Stories. And we're bringing it into a new community in Mobile. And Kate DeSue, who's on the call with us, on the Zoom with us, is our teaching writer there. So in terms of leadership opportunities, working with arts and justice, or juvenile justice in particular, but the whole justice system, that's a huge area for leadership opportunities. There's some great things happening in Birmingham. I don't know how much people know about it. Do you know about what's happening at the Youth Detention Center in Birmingham that has a music studio that's just been built in it by Randall Horton, who's from Birmingham, who got a Creative Commons, I think is what it's called, grant. And he's built a music studio there where the kids are in detention. And so things like that. These are some of the kind of ways that leadership can it doesn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is we need the things that are really needed in our community. We really need the leadership to come in through all the different arts. And the other piece of this is that we need to be advocates for the things that our communities need. And artists can do that. You know, we can do that. We can say things about issues that might be considered political. They're part of our community. And I won't go on and on there, but I think you can probably figure out what some of them are. One of them is the prisons situation in Alabama.
And Salem, I would say too, like, just say you want to be on a board.
I
can't even tell you how many organizations are just desperate for someone to come up and say, I'd love to serve on your board for a year. Do you have how can I help? Because it's a commitment. It's a labor of love. It's honestly, I feel like we don't, whenever someone says I work at an all volunteer organization, what I know about them is that they are, or that I work for or help with, is that they are really giving their time and their energy to community. And it's like working as an editor on a journal. You can't really understand like how much work goes into that until you sit on the other side of it and you're there reading through subs at 1:30 a.m. And trying to stay awake and doing the labor of how to send a rejection notice that is encouraging but not too false. All of this stuff is part of community, and you have people, especially who have these experiences already in the community working in these leadership roles, are just gold to any organization that is lucky enough to have them say, hey, I'd like to show up. So that's.
Yes.
Great. Allie did say, as someone brand new to this, this is so helpful. Thank you everyone for the counsel and direction. Yeah, this is really great. I am absolutely loving this. And kind of like piggybacking off of that sort of question, I want to know what do you guys as our panelists, as the people who are already in positions of leadership, what do you envision for Alabama? Like, what do you want for our writers, for our state, for our people, like resources, or what sort of like the project or the plan or the idea that you're reaching toward?
We were actually, another member of my leadership team and I were Zooming earlier, and we were fantasizing about multi-state size conference in the South, because it's difficult to balance having a conference with a big enough program that's enticing and attractive and gets people what they need, and that is also affordable at the same time. And we were thinking, wouldn't it be fun to go together with our neighboring regions and throw something similar to what they're doing in California? Well, they're not in California this week because it's online, but usually in the summer, but that doesn't involve flying to LA and staying in downtown LA for a week. So that's my pie in the sky dream, is people all together in a big community in-person activity again.
Right.
Yeah, a regional writing event is really good. There used to be one called the Gulf Coast Creative Writing Teachers Program or something that was down in Fairhope that took across the Gulf Coast teachers and creative writing programs and students, but I don't even know if it's still happening. But that's a great idea. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida Panhandle. It would take some organizing, but some of the larger things like South Arts or NEA or through the LitNet network might have grants, to fund.
I'm going to throw in something that isn't connected to any of our organizations, but it's something that I fantasized about while being on various boards. And that is, there are a lot, whenever we apply for residencies, right? As writers, when we actually will have the time to go and finish the book. There aren't many in Alabama. I think there's one down at the beach. But when you think about the fact that we have to apply out of state, right, to somewhere else, when there's so many spaces that, could be, especially in Birmingham, I feel like there should be a residency space, even if it's for short residencies. And I would love to see more support for something that a lot of women who have children know, which is that you will not be able, you have very little support as a writer if you have children. And sometimes you make the choice. Sometimes some people actually choose not to because they know this. And so, how we balance out opportunity, given that, is always really interesting to me as well. How can we make sure that some people aren't being left out because of reproductive issues, or because of the way that patriarchy tends to assume that male writers can leave and go and write, but the women stay with the kids.
Right. Well, that idea of of a residency somewhere in Alabama, my longtime fantasy when I was over in Auburn was that we could get Alabama Power and Russell Lands and the architecture department at Auburn to combine for this, give the land, design the buildings, build the buildings, and have a writers colony at Lake Martin. And I didn't ever get to activate that fantasy, but there are plenty of businesses and individuals in this state who could contribute to that. You know, so, but that's not a project I'm going to take on at the Writers Forum, but I throw that out there because we need it. You're right. You're exactly right. We need a place where we can go and do our work.
We do. And like, that's also been something that has been on my mind too, because I have friends who have mentioned that they would love to have a little writer's residency based out of their house or their spare like guest room or something of that nature. And sort of like get a network together of these sorts of things. I would love to see this happen personally, because I'm also someone who's looking forward to like, hey, what residencies are local and nearby, and they're non-local or nearby. It's me taking myself with you know, a tent out into the woods, and that becomes my residency. So no, I'm totally with you there. You're
There's the Writers Cottage in Fairhope.
Yeah,
the Fairhope Center for the Writing Arts has a Writers Cottage, and I'm serving on the board of that now. Before I went on the board, someone made the decision to advertise it in the AWP Chronicle. I don't know why they did that. There are plenty of writers in Alabama. But anyway, so they started having all these people applying from all over the country. Mm-hmm. And they had a whole backlog of people, and then COVID shut it down for about 18 months or whatever. But I would definitely say to everybody, it's the Fairhope Center for the Writing Arts in Fairhope, Alabama. It's a wonderful little cottage. Right now, they're not charging anything to have it for a month, but we're encouraging a small charge to help pay for the cleaning costs and everything. But it's in Fairhope, which is a great place to be. Mm-hmm. It's very close to the bay.
We did, this is short term, and it was not free for participants, but we did a short term over the long weekend retreat at the monastery in Coleman.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
A couple years running, and that was we were able to rent one of the buildings and get about 20 to 25 people for the weekend. And as a stay-at-home mom at the time, it was wonderful because the nuns fixed meals and you didn't even have to choose what you ate. You could just write and then go to your meal. And the grounds were beautiful and it was quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for a short term, mm-hmm. not free, but kind of low budget place.
Yeah, sometimes you have to make your own retreat.
Yes. I have also
go to
done the weekend at a Hampton Inn or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would add as a hope of mine that this to continue to network the networks, kind of like what I was saying before. And so I guess what I mean by that is, so I guess I've always thought that Alabama has this rich, vibrant, both history and presence of writing and writers. And one of, going back to Ashley, she was guest editor of Poetry Magazine pretty recently, and she took as her charge there not to kind of invent anything or inspire anybody in Alabama to write good poems. It's to recognize the good poems that are already being written in Alabama, you know, on a national level. And that's, I think, what I've always wanted is that what gets done here on a sort of local, statewide level sort of has these sort of concentric circles, right? And so if we always think about trying to network the network, like start your thing at your local public library, but have an ear to the ground to what the Writers Forum is doing, to what the Writers Cooperative is doing, to what Magic City Poetry Festival is doing, and you know, SCBWI is doing. You know, have an ear to the ground to those things, and sort of look for ripple effects, both out and back in. Like, let's try to generate energy around ourselves.
Right.
Not bias and attitude, you know?
Right. Exactly. I really second that, because what happens is we just get siloed And we don't mean to be siloed, but we are, because we're working so hard on our own thing. And I think that one thing I want to put a plug in right now is for people to go to the Alabama Writers Cooperative's meeting at the end of the month. You know, try to go there. Even if you can't go for the whole thing, just register, buy a ticket, go to the part you can go to. But getting to be with Ashley on Saturday night when she gives her keynote is very special, because she is in so much demand that for you to get to go and sit in the room with her and listen to her talk is worth the price of admission right there. So I would encourage you to consider to do that. But TJ, that's a really great network, the networks. Maybe we could get a logo built or something around that and we could all use it. You know, network the networks, network the network somehow, and all the writing groups could have it as their
I love that because we have so many wonderful organizations, and like these are just the ones that I reached out to, and not even all the ones that I had reached out to either, but there are so many people doing amazing things, and I would love to see us all sort of coming together, which like we do in so many different ways, but even just like even more so to have all of us writing together and reading together and just hanging out, because anytime you invite creatives to a space, you invite people to a space, wonderful things happen, right? And this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I did have one more question come to me through the chat, and we can kind of wrap up with this. But the question was, what did you wish you had known starting out?
You mean starting out as what?
As writers.
Yeah.
I might say, just like, don't ever say no to anything. Like, don't think I can't do this. Just say yes and do it anyway, because we sell ourselves short on success and we move the goalpost when we get to a certain place. We're like, oh no, I'm not really that, all that. But yeah, just say yes to stuff when it comes along. Like, I have to admit, I got Helly's email about this, and I don't do a lot of public speaking, like zero. So I was like, I can't do that. I have to be on a panel. But I was like, okay, well, why the heck not then? Just do it. So because you never know where stuff's going to lead. You'll meet somebody, you'll get inspired for the next story. You know, it's all material and it's all connections and it's all networking, the networking. So just, say yes to everything. Unless it's a schmagent. Don't say yes to the schmagents who are trying to scam you. Research them.
I would also say, don't feel like you have to be in the genre that you do the best in.
Yes.
Don't write poetry because you can do poetry better than you can do fiction. If you're interested in fiction, try the fiction too. That was the one thing that I feel like I wish somebody had said to me. Now, they may have said it and I might not have heard it. But yeah, don't pigeonhole yourself. Be bold.
I like that.
Yeah.
TJ, do you have something?
I just, this is more personal. It's something that I'm really thinking about a lot lately, is the sustainability of writing and why I do it. And I wish I was, when I started, I wish I was more aware of all the unhealthy reasons that I wanted to write. And I wish that I was able to steer a little bit more like a North Star towards the intrinsic reasons that I write. I'm 50 years old. I'm just now kind of getting to, that list that I wrote, that's really important to me, and it's okay. I came up through an MFA program and really started studying writing in college with the idea that I was going to be a famous writer, and I'm not a famous writer, and yet here I am, and I've had a lot of meaningful experiences that had nothing to do with anything that would have made me a famous writer.
I would say I wish that I had known that that I was already a writer, right? That I'd been writing for years, and that what I wasn't was a published author. And so I wish that I had less fear about that. But I also wish that someone had told me, number one, you don't have to have an MFA. It's okay that you left your MFA program and decided to do philosophy instead. That's okay. You can still write. And that there's a difference between writing and publishing. These are two different worlds. When you sit down to write, you can't think about the market. You can't there are these different spaces that require different parts of your mind. And I think if I had learned early how to separate so that I'm not sitting at the table thinking, is this character likable? If I wasn't thinking like the market in me, right, that I would be able to better handle some of the difficult questions of writing. And I just want to point out TJ for something, because blurbs, when books come out, are one of these stressful parts of it. And many of us have said and complained about blurbs, right? And how just annoying they are, and how everybody knows it's just your friends or your professors who wrote them, and they kind of have to do it. And it's an open secret that a blurb doesn't do anything except help market the book, but it's not like, it doesn't mean that much. Well, TJ had a book without them. And I remember looking at the back of the cover and being so excited that, that he published a book that someone actually did it. Someone dared, it was part of his concept and part of the conceptual work in it. But that, to me, having the time to read, I wish that I had understood that when I was reading, I was studying too. That every book I read was part of the labor of writing, and that I honored that too.
Mm-hmm. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a most magical conversation. I really appreciate each of the panelists for coming out, and for you guys for showing up with your questions and for being a part of our writing community, right? So no matter where you are, how experienced you are, if you're just starting out, we welcome you, and we're really glad to have you with us. Alabama is so incredible in how we share story and how we communicate story. But also in how we build relationship with each other. So thank you for being a part of all of that. And if you guys have any questions for how to be a part of things in the future, you can hit us up through the Spark website, any of our panelists' website. We are all willing to connect you with all the people that we know, to bring you sort of like into the fold, and get you the resources and connection that you need.
Let us hear from you. Let us hear from you. And we can't keep up with you if we don't know you're out there. And if you join the organization, then we know you're out there. And we have your contact information, and we can send people to you. So
exactly. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone. This is so long. So y'all take care.